Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Bring it!
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, so an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
The right that someone has. All of our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you disrespected the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you is in the deal, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a vision, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Pleasant Monday evening to you. We begin the week with Stanley Ming. Stanley Ming needs no introduction, one of the enduring names in Guyana's entrepreneurship. But if you read the papers and look at the television programs and social media, the past 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, you will see the name of the political party is PNC/Reform. One of the persons responsible for that R next to the PNC's name is Stanley Ming. He was the founder of that attachment or that alliance with the PNC called Reform. So today it goes as PNC Reform. And the man sitting next to us is the man who was responsible for the reform component of the PNC. Stanley, it's always good to meet you. You're a very pleasant person, and I can say this with authority because I know you, and I know you're a very pleasant, modest person. Do you know one of the upcoming politicians from the ruling party?
On television many times.
Okay, let's start with Leonard since he don't know you.
Mr. Ming, welcome again. And your name a few years back used to be ubiquitous in our politics, as Freddie mentioned. You're one of the founders of the reform component of the PNC. I want to ask you just one question on that, but it has two parts. Who and what persuaded you to be part of that component and participate in politics when you were known prior to that as a business person, and you were known for, your exploits in business? What led you?
Let me give you a précis of what transpired. I remember very clearly in 1990, there was a woman by the name of Mrs. She was a very ardent supporter of Mr. Hoyt, and she lived right up at the top here on High Street. And she invited several people, myself included, to meet with Mr. Hoyt, who was president at the time, to discuss the future of Guyana. Well, I knew from the word go it was a political
formation.
Pre the elections in '92.
Oh, okay.
It was, the usual stuff, promoting the party. Cheryl Lopes was her name. And there were at least, I would say, a minimum of 50 people that were invited. And we gathered in her house on the floor, and Mr. Hoyt, I remember very clearly, his wife, Joyce, and Kenneth King, Dr. Kenneth King, who was his advisor on economic development and stuff. And basically, he said to the audience, he wanted to hear what the public would like to see, and the young people that he invited, businessmen and professionals, what they would like to see in the future for Guyana. And as usual, it was very simple exchange, and people were saying about the blackouts at the time and the potholes on the road, and I was not prepared to soft soap anybody, because I told him in my opening remarks that I don't care to be politically correct. Once I'm correct is all that matters, which is a phrase that I picked up from Lee Kuan Yew, who was the Prime Minister of Singapore. And I said to him, Mr. President, you heard tonight about potholes and about blackouts. But what I want to say to you, I'm a businessman, I'm a CEO of a company. And in my line of work, you have workers, you have supervisors, you have managers, and then you have the CEO. In other words, that's the trade. I said, a worker can tell you the reason he's doing what he's doing, the way he's doing it, is because his supervisor told him to do that. And then when you go to the supervisor, he or she can say, well, I'm doing it this way because my manager told me to do it. And then when you go to the manager, he says, well, it's the CEO's directive. And I said, Mr. President, you are the CEO of our country, so you are the person responsible for making whatever changes are necessary. So the buck stops with you. And I said, I'm not going to paint it with a sugar coat, but we have blackouts in this country every day at the time, which we're still experiencing to some extent still. We had situations where a lot of the schools, they were dilapidated and shortage of resources to fix the roofs. I said we could have done astronomy from sitting in the classroom because you could see the moon at night. And you had a lot of shortages of teachers. And I said to him at the time, I said, I know back in the days of, Mr. Burnham, you talked about free education from kindergarten to university. But at the present time, which was 1990, the resources were limited. And I would suggest to you, as having criticized what's going on, that private schools be re-established. So those of us who had the resources to pay for private education could do that. And then the resources the government had would be spread amongst a smaller amount in the public schools. And the other thing I said to him, technology today is all about computerization, and computers are not about just computing. I said lawyers, doctors, engineers, accountants, everybody use computers. And I said at that point in time, computers were attracting duty at the rate of, I think, 70%, because it was considered just an electronic, stereo system. I says, you make computers and the relevant hardware free of import duties, so that very soon everybody can afford to buy a computer and not pay the 70%, and let's go into the modern technology. That was a Thursday. Friday, I was invited to his office after I said what I said, and he said to me, Stanley, I thought I was in trouble because a lot of people said I was very rash with him. I left last night, I went home with Joyce, and we reflected on what you said. Even though it was never put to me so bluntly, you're correct. And what I want to say to you is I would like you to join the PNC party and to work with me and the people in the PNC to change the way in which we do business. And I said to him, Mr. President, that has never been a part of my ambition. What I can promise you at this point in time is that I will do whatever is in my own capability to help and to help to plan the future. But what I can assure you is that I have many friends, hundreds, that are suitably qualified and skilled in many other areas of country, the running of a country, that I'll be happy to bring. I said, I don't claim to know very much, but I boast that I know many people that know everything I need to know, and all it takes is to pick up the phone and make a call. As a result, subsequently, I brought people like Eric Phillips, Supriya Singh, and many others into the country. They left where they were and came and gave him the benefits of what they thought were in the interest of the future of Guyana. And he kept badgering me about getting involved in the party. And he says, Mr. President, absolutely no interest, but we will help. Right now, many years subsequently after he was voted out in 92, in 1991, before the 2001 election, he turned to me one day. We were chatting. I used to go out of town with him and relax out of Guyana. And he said, Stanley, one of the problems people like you have is that you're selfish. You can bring stuff to the table, but you don't want to make the sacrifice. And but he played on me. I knew it was, trying to play on my conscience and stuff. And I said to him, Mr. Hoyt, let me tell you something. One of the reasons I don't want to be involved in politics in your party is because politics in the context of countries like Guyana have a lot of very insecure and jealous people. So if I got in there and I was close to you, a lot of people in the PNC would think I am going to be taking their position. So I said, I don't want to have anything like that. I said, what I'm prepared to do, if you think it will help, I will form a group outside of the PNC. And that is how people like Eric and Supriya Singh and George Norton and Mr. Khan, not Khan, no, Jerome
Jerome Khan.
right,
okay.
and George Norton and several others that were, you know, business and professionals. They came together and said, Stanley, you lead the group, and for the purpose of elections, we will go with the PNC. Because we'd asked other political groups, but they were not interested, and the PNC were interested in us being a part. And that's the beginning of reform. That's how it came about.
Interesting.
As we go along, if you can remember the name of the lady who invited you to
You
this.
mentioned it.
Yes, I just mentioned it.
Lopes.
Cherry Lopes.
From the famous Lopes family?
Right up the road here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Now, looking back at those days, you felt that you made a contribution to the business vision, the entrepreneurial vision that the government of the day had.
Well, what Mr. Hoyt said to us as a group back in 1994, after he lost the elections, you know, you guys have a lot of good ideas. Why don't you put it into a conceptual document, which we did. And that, Freddie, you know, because you spoke about it many times, Guyana 21 plan, which was what we envisioned should happen as Guyana approached the 21st century. This was 1996. And we delivered that presentation in 1996. In fact, I just pulled it out the other day, and there's a book which was written by Peter Ramsaru that has almost the entire thing in it. And what it was basically what was logical. I tell people Guyana was studied ad nauseum from the 50s, before we became independent, by many different consultancies. And as a result, there are all these studies. In fact, Freddie, now that you mentioned that, I knew you would have brought this up, but look, there is a publication here that says Studies and Analysis of the Transportation Sector in Guyana, 1960 to 1997. And if you
1960.
1960 to 1997. This is not...
That would involve the Del Conte.
This, Freddie, is not the studies. This is a list of the studies. You know, this is a study of all the studies, right? So, and in there, it has everything to do with the development of Guyana in terms of transportation. And if you open it, Freddie, at the front cover, let me just read it quickly for the benefit of the viewing public.
You don't have a second copy.
No. Well, the government has several copies. This is just a copy I got because it was done by the UN. And it says here, table of contents, forward, introduction, category A, roads and bridges, waterways, ports, harbors, domestic airports, internal airports, railways, transportation reviews, and an assessment of needs, challenges, and opportunities, all documented here in great detail. And this is still valid today, but what has happened, most of these were misplaced over the years. And the UN had presented that with the support of Mr. Alsop, who was, one of the chief engineers in Guyana. And it's still valid today. And another report that I think, Freddie, you must be aware of is this one here. Highway approaches to Georgetown and New Amsterdam. This was done, if you look here, 1970. And I can show the public, I mean, when we did Guyana 21, it wasn't that Stanley Ming came up with any idea. I wouldn't take credit for that. In 1970, when this was presented, here it shows a new alignment of a road starting from what was then Sherry Street at the turn where you now have John B. Borden, Mandela Avenue. And it went all the way south, continuing down. And if you look here, I can show you, and I have copies of this ready, I can give you. It comes out of Diamond. So what is now Heroes Highway was envisioned since 1970 in this study. And it was brought into being by Mr. Burnham. So it's nothing new. It's just that it was never done, right? And I tell people that passageway through the shopping center in South was left there specifically back then so that when the road was built, it would go through there. It's not something that was created recently. So the bottom line, however, I tell people, I don't care whose idea it was, who conceptualized it. Credit must be given to the people or the political group that implemented it. And that was done under the leadership of President Ali. So I give him the majority of the credit for getting it done. You know, he didn't say, well, you know, this is a PNC idea or it happened under the PNC. That doesn't matter. Right? It was implemented under the presidency of Irfan Ali. The same thing about the bridge. We talked about the new bridge back in 1996, and he made it happen.
Yeah, I like that you said that. I can't remember who had the saying, but I read a gentleman, he walked through the cemetery, and he was saying, look, you see thousands of tombs. There lie many, many, many good intentions, many good plans are lying there. So I like that you said that. It's not necessarily who first came up with an idea, but who had the vision and capacity to implement it, because only then we as Guyanese could actually enjoy Heroes Highway, and not just what's on paper. So I'm happy that you said that. The other thing about the that plan, because your name was associated with it in Guyana a whole lot, and you just explained that you were not necessarily the originator, but when it comes to commerce in Guyana, in Georgetown, and so on, what was the vision for the commerce of Georgetown? Let me just give an example. Over the years, we see a whole lot of vending has ballooned, and it keeps growing on a daily basis, more vendors coming out. Was there a vision for how Georgetown would be divided business-wise?
Again, there I could be most likely cause a little bit of, some people might be upset, but I think what we're doing to Georgetown is very bad. Georgetown should never have gone the way it's gone in terms of taking down all the nice old structures and be putting up these big concrete edifices. Georgetown should remain an historic city because it has beautiful architecture. You look at the town hall, the high court, the magistrate's court, the city engineer's office, and many other buildings along Avenue Republic. Those are treasures, right? Georgetown is congested. It does not have space to do what we're trying to do. The sewage system is totally overpowered, right? And what we should be doing now is planning the future city of Guyana. And on that note, I want to say to you, it was already studied and presented in 2003 by the Germans. And I took it out because I know that was going to be an issue. It's here, right? And in that document, which I can show to the public, I'll turn it around and show it to everybody. This is an area in green, which is at the confluence of the Essequibo, Cuyuni, and the Mazaruni River. And this area here that they have envisioned to be the new city for the future, where the German government is the size of Trinidad, right? It's 1,300 square miles. You know, Guyana has 83,000. This is 1,300. And if you were to take Georgetown, Linden, New Amsterdam, Corriverton, everything, bunch it together and put it in here, it would only occupy the top piece, like a middle index finger, is all it would take. So you're talking about at least 20 times the size of all the populated areas right now. And if you were to look...
And that would have been in Region 7?
Region 7 and a part of Region 3, yes, and Region 10.
Oh, okay.
7, 10, and 3.
Oh, okay.
Right? And if you go now further, they showed you exactly, you know, where it encompassed, you know, Bartica there, Landabali, Mobalisa, Aichuni, Rockstone. And then they went as far as showing you exactly what we should do where in terms of the the layout of the town. Let me just find it quickly so I can show the public.
You should have been an engineer, Stanley.
Well, that's my background, engineering. You know, I used to be the chairman of industrial engineering. So, 10 years, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And this here, it shows you the whole layout, where to put the hospital, the health center, the business school, secondary school, primary school, everything. All laid out very neatly there. This was presented to us in 2003. Now, let me tell you what are the big assets of this. Apart from being 1,300 square miles, which is the size of Trinidad, it has the Essequibo Cuyuni Mazaruni River. Bartica gets its water from a pipe that's right there on the Essequibo River, sucks that water up and treats it and pumps to all the household. They don't have any wells, right? You know the size of the Essequibo River, right? It's the sixth largest, I think, in the world. And then you got the Mazaruni and the Cuyuni. If we do not pollute those rivers, and we were to put a 3-foot diameter pipe, and to bring that up, treat it and pipe it to the whole of Guyana, we wouldn't need any wells, right? And the same thing goes for forestry products. Most of the lumber that we use now in Guyana comes from the areas surrounding here. So you got the wood, you got the water, then you have the sand in the river that has been washed down over the years. Is superior in quality to the white sand. It uses 40% less cement than white sand, and you get stronger concrete. So you have all the major ingredients there to build a new modern city, and all of it is way above sea level. In some cases over 100 feet above sea level. So if we develop this in the future of this of Guyana, all our people will be way above the flood zone. Right? So this is something that we need to embrace, and I tell people we have to stop this nonsense about looking back. You know, who did this, who did that. You know, if you and I, when we leave here now, and we go in the car and we drive down High Street and we keep looking in the rearview mirror, we have a head-on crash. We get hurt. So let me stop looking back and let me look to the future.
And in fact, they got so much space there for housing and all kinds of things when you look at it.
For every Guyanese to have not an acre, acres. You multiply 1,300 square miles by 640 and divide by $400,000.
You know what I would like to hear though, as you presented that as the area for the new city. I'd like this to be in a conference situation where people, where they are doubters and where they are conformers, people who conform and people who say no, it can't work, and hear how the ideas play. That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Let me touch a pin here with you. You know, when you had the Arab Spring, you remember Mubarak was expelled. And the new people that came in, they tried to make a difference. They invited the Chinese to design a new city to take off the strain off of Cairo. And when they told, the Chinese asked, how big a city you want done? And they said to accommodate 5 million people. It has been completed in 5 years. So Guyana, with 1 million people, if we are serious, that can be done in way less than 5 years. Right?
Yeah, and at the rate at which development is going in Guyana, I believe you.
Do you have any intention or do you have an instinct to see that this thing is carried through? Are you inclined to speak to the powers that be to say, look, this is feasible, let's get it done? Have you been talking to
Freddie, here again, you know, I have, if you look across there, if you just look behind you on that bookshelf, those are studies. I have studies dating back to the 1950s. How I got them? When I was in Parliament, I heard about them, right? You know, through various people, Bert Carter, John Lewis, these are all engineers. And in some cases, the copies were very tattered, right? I knew the ministry had a lot of them, but that burned down many years ago. I flew to Texas at my own expense, got copies of the studies, brought them back, made copies in Guyana, gave it to, I remember very clearly, Sam Hines, at the time Tony Chavir, Mr. Hoyt, everybody who I knew could influence the process, right? when Tony Chevalier got up in Parliament, you can ask him, and talked about realigning the road from going to Mahaika, from Unity, right? I said, Tony, we don't need to do another study. It's done since 1970.
You showed him.
I gave him the copy. I said, Tony, just get it done. And that's what he did. That realignment of the road to Mahaika and beyond was out of this study, the Barton-Brinkerhoff study, right? So I tell people, we don't need to study Guyana anymore. What we need to do is to
Implement.
get them out and start to implement them, right? I mean, look, for instance, the bridge. I talked about building that new bridge across the Demerara River since 1996, right? It's been done now. But let me tell you, based on what the president has planned for Region 3, which is on cue, what he's planning for Region 3 is very much in order, you know, with the port for the processing of food for exports and the expansion of the agriculture. That's the place to do it. People don't know, but the agricultural production in Region 3 is about 50% of all of Guyana. And when you can buy banana up there for $50 a pound, we're paying $250 a pound in Georgetown. And that's why you put in these farmers markets, because there's too many middlemen, right? Now, if you develop that area with the current rate of traffic, this new bridge will be overpowered before the next election. By 2029, we need a new bridge, a new other 4-lane bridge. And if we are serious, and I'm no expert, but I deal with simple logic. You know, I tell people, I don't have a big initial behind my name. I got 2 initials, Cyril, Stanley Ming, CS. And the CS is common sense. So so my thing is, if you look at what's happening in Guyana, we're talking now about a road from Letem to Linden. And then you got to bring whatever it is coming from there somewhere out towards the sea, because you want to export it to wherever, right? Now, there are a couple of options. You can take it from Korpakari to the Berbice, if you build a new highway. You can take it again from Rockstone, and you come out along the east bank of the Essequibo to Parika, right? Or you can start to bring it down through the existing Linden Highway, which is being resurfaced and strengthened, down towards Soosdijk. But don't make the mistake and bring it from Soosdijk down to Georgetown. That would be a catastrophe. At Soosdijk, where the highway comes from south, it turns left and comes west down to Soosdijk, you can take an elevated road off to the left, use the third island as a support for a clear span bridge, which is very narrow. It's less than 500 feet. And the rest of it will be supported to go over to the west bank. You build a bridge there, and then continue that highway on the other side, down on the west bank, to the gas to shore project, and then on to the mouth of the Demerara River on the western side, where TriStar is now building a new port, and we got it made. And we also take a road from there straight across towards Goshen, which is opposite Bartica. That will open up Guyana like you can't believe.
Well, I heard the president mention that road from Parika to Goshen. I forget it was the name of the road. They called it. Right. From Parika to Goshen, I heard him mention that. And I also heard him...
We're going to get something with that Del Conte Road. I like to...
Freddie, that Del Conte Road, you know what it came about? The company that was hired back in the days when
That was a premier,
was a company called something Del Conte. They didn't complete it. It was a very bad deal they did with us. You know, they took money and they didn't complete it. That's how it became the Del Conte Road. But let me show you something, Freddie, because you're a man that has a memory like an elephant. The study of that road and its alignment is in this document, which was resurveyed in 1997.
Stanley, I hope all these stuff is put in the University of Guyana Library.
Well, Freddie, I did better than that. Every government that I know since I got involved in politics, I've given copies. President Ali asked for a copy of this one, the German study, right? A couple of years ago, just after he got in. I don't sit on data.
So when
this doesn't do me any good, right? What I want is people who are in the position to make this happen to do it. Right? I don't sit down on information. I give everybody copies of whatever they want. When David Patterson was minister, I anything, because I tell people, knowledge unless shared,
Yeah.
whether it is in school or this, has no value. If I sit down on this and do nothing, well, just forget.
Exactly. Yeah.
I need to give this, which I've done. I've never refused. Instant, when the current president asks for this study or that study, instant chief, right away. Right? But I don't want anybody to think I'm telling them what to do.
Right.
I tell you what's there. You want to have it, feel free. It's now my property. I got copies of my own, which I paid for. I never got this from any government as such. I went to England, I went to United States, Canada, and bought copies. That's how I got them. So I tell you, Freddie,
Del Conte Road.
look it right here, brother. From Perica all the way up to Goshen, opposite Bartica.
Oh, directly, all right. I've been
Directly
to
up.
Goshen before.
And on the west bank now, Demerara, it goes all the way past Potentia, all the way up on the opposite side of the current airport. It's right here. Right, and then when we go now to Essequibo, Perica, all the way down past the Murshi, across the Bonasica River, right? And all the way, Bonasica Creek, sorry, and all the way down, no, Bonasica River.
Yeah.
Not the creek, Bonasica River, here. Cross there, and then all the way down to Macora. Now, as we sit here, again, I got to compliment the present government. The road is now going to meet Bonasica, I reckon, by about March next year. It's gone past all the villages on the eastern bank, and it's heading straight now towards Bonasica. And that's happened within the last couple of years. That will open up an area for farming that will make Guyana not just totally independent of food, but we could feed the Caribbean, which is what Bonham talked about since back in the 1960s. We could feed the whole Caribbean, right? And the study, Freddie, for this project, I took it out. This was 2017, right? Final design for the Deltante, the road to Goshen, there, done, and presented to the government.
Don't we think it's a little, I don't want to use the word insulting to the Guyanese people to continue to use the name of a person who accepted money and did not complete.
The company.
Yeah, it was the company who defrauded us. Why we continue to use the name? If you understand what I'm saying.
Stanley Ming
No,
Highway.
some other name. You understand what I'm saying?
But Stanley, when you look at all these things and what you have think, I always say, as a person trained in history, you know, we name something after people like these.
Yeah. Freddie, let me just before you come in. Only the other day I was going down the road, and as I traveling through these streets, I was traveling with my wife, and I asking my wife, who, as you're going through the street, you're asking, who is Laluni? Who we have no idea. Some of these people were probably suppressors in the.
But
You understand?
Remember, Murray was a slave hanger?
Yeah, and changed it to Kwame now. And yes, some of these streets need to
When
be
you study
changed.
this man's life, his contribution, you want to tell me the young school children, when they go out, they shouldn't see something named after Stanley Ming? I've always said, Kanai, Desmond Height, you know, these people.
I think somebody was advocating for North Road
to be the,
to be changed
I did that in two
to
columns.
Desmond Heights. Yeah,
he lived there. He didn't
and
go.
he lived there, and he still got a library or something there.
What is the origin of we're in Stanley's office on Orchard Street, Orchard and it's in Orchard Street. What's the origin of Orchard? Why not name it Stanley Ming Street?
No, plain and simple. I support that 100%, and I prefer these things are done while people are still alive and could appreciate it.
Stanley, let me say this: I've always had a good relation with you. I've always admired your modesty as I don't want to use the word wealthy, but as a resourceful businessman. You know, as a well-placed businessman financially. I've always admired your generosity, modesty. You know, Stanley came up to me at the funeral service of Cathy Yu's father. And the time we were playing with blackouts. And he said to me, I'd like to give you a generator. I had to decline it because in journalism, you can't accept those kind of gifts, right? And then I would be hard pressed if Stanley did something.
Because those days you used to write every day, oh, your ice cream spoil. And
It'd be hard to not to. You just don't take things on. But Stanley offered me a generator, but that's the nature of the man.
Yeah.
The problem with people like you, Stanley, is that the essence of who you are have not been really publicized. We know about, you know who we know about? Politicians.
Yeah.
We don't know about these people who secretly make immense and priceless contribution to their country. Stanley, I am so crazy and such a hater of people who throw their authority and wealth around. So I don't flatter people. But you are an exemplary citizen. I've always said that. I don't think you have a detractor.
Well, Freddie, as far as I'm aware, I know of no known enemy. Because I don't care what your color is, your ethnicity, which religion. I think you're entitled to make those choices. Right? I see myself as a normal human being, no exceptional human being. But I believe in people. Because where I've gotten today is not Stanley Ming. I have the vision. But I have 60 people that embrace the vision and make it happen. So my next big plan is I'm developing a plot of land I have at Briga, 300 and something acres.
Wow.
Which is the size of from Main Street to Camp Street and from the seawall to Banks DIH. And by 2028, every member of my staff will own their own home. I will make that possible. And we will have their own facilities for school, for hospitals and everything, not done by Stanley Ming. You know how I'm going to do it? I'm going to get people that have those skills, bring them into the system that I'm developing. They will set up the school using land that I will make available, not at these crazy prices you got. You set up the school, the teachers and the parents will own it, and they will make it function to the best of their ability. And that is what you call proper human engineering.
Young people out there, you heard, send in your applications to Ming's products and services.
No, it's to the man staff, it's to the 60.
No, well, when they become a member of staff,
the
they
staff
will...
is only 60. But let's say for argument, you are whatever, a journalist, and Freddie Kissoon wants to set up a bulletin for the community. I can send you Freddie here. I want you to come by me. I can set you up. You can have an office in one of the commercial areas. You will run your operation and provide it to the community. And either you want to lease the space, right, and run your business as your own entrepreneur. I will bring everybody into the system.
This man has a lot to. Guyanese need to know about this man's contribution. I've been after him for 3 years. We running into each other. Stanley, you gotta come and do an interview. And I eventually cornered him in outside Matthias supermarket. And they say, Stanley, it's 3 years now. You gotta give us an interview. And I am quite happy. This is one of the best knowledgeable interview I have done.
I think the mayor of Georgetown has immense power to change the names of city streets, and we gotta raise that with him. But let me pivot to
tell me something. Who was the president of the United States in 1842?
1842.
Madison.
But I don't know, and it doesn't matter, right? In another 100 years from now, nobody knows.
No, well, when that time comes,
no. Don't die.
No. But even if that is so, when that time comes, that is, because a lot of things is just for time and period. But Urquhart, time finish. Urquhart, or however you pronounce the name of the street, his time is gone. Whatever contribution he made, the society is thankful.
No.
We have,
but you don't have to compete with Urquhart. there's so many other places that you could.
No, understood, but I'm just
For
making
example,
a point.
It may not be the name of a street. You can have a competitive scholarship in engineering or in business management in his name.
Yeah.
Do you? I'll ask Stanley now to explain to viewers his origin. Do you know what my wife told me? My wife told me when she was a little girl, my wife's parents had a supermarket at Louisville. Stanley them used to sell machines, you know, long ago before computer. They had this machine.
Oh, yeah. This is a big, cash.
Stanley, tell us about your origins.
Freddie, I was born to very poor parents. 1951, August 13th, at 61 Public Road, Kitty, in a tenement yard in the back house. I never saw a flushing toilet until I was a teenager, right? My father was uneducated. My mom was just a housewife. And my dad used to work at where Damrar Bank is now at Camp and South Road as a clerk, checking off goods coming in and stuff. He rode a bicycle to work. And in those days, even though everything was cheap, the money he earned was not sufficient to take care of the family, which was eventually was 6 of us, 4 boys and 2 girls. And as a kid, around the age of 8, when I saw what my parents were going through, I decided to start planting a kitchen garden at the back of the yard. And then I made what we call a fowl pen in them days, with mesh and wood, and raised it off the ground, and you mind yard fowl. And that was what helped to put dinner on the table some days. And my younger brother, Colin, who had that very unfortunate accident, he and I were businessmen since we were small boys. When my parents bought the house where we moved to in Campbellville around when I was about 10 years old from my uncle, I remember she got a mortgage at New Building Society. And I set about with my brother, and we made almost everything to outfit that house. The toilet paper, dispenser, towel racks, everything, because we couldn't afford to buy those things. So as a kid, I learned from very early to improvise and to make things. I mean, you know, Freddie, I used to race motorcycles. I made my first motorcycle that I raced. I couldn't afford to go and buy a motorbike, right? And what I learned from very young, I learned to fix motorbikes. At the age of 11 years old, I was repairing motorbikes for people who own motorbikes. And that's how I made money. And then in those days, not young, but the cyclists, cyclists that ride cycles, racing cycles. If you notice, they're nicely painted. They like to have their bicycles nice. I learned to do candy tone paint, which was the paint that sparkles. I was the only person in Guyana at the time that knew how to do it. I taught myself. And me and my brother decided we can paint these bicycles, but we couldn't afford a spray gun. You know what we did? Freddie would know. We took a flit can. Remember flit can? And we modified it. And we put the paint in there and modified the can, and that was the spray gun. And